Greetings and welcome to Education in Focus, powered by Chalkboard News. I'm Dan McCaleb, Vice President of News and Content at the Franklin News Foundation, publisher of chalkboardnews.com. Chalkboard is a news website dedicated to issues related to K-12 education. Joining me again today, as he does each and every week, is Chalkboard's K-12 editor, Brendan Clary. How are you, Brendan?
I'm doing all right, Dan. Getting over a little bit of a cold here, but on the mend. How are you doing?
Wish you a quick recovery. It is the season for colds. I'm doing well, thank you. We are recording this on Tuesday, November 28th. Brendan, nearly 50,000 students in the Portland School District are returning to school after several weeks off because of a weeks-long teacher strike in the district. They agreed to terms over the long holiday weekend. They haven't finalized it, so let me inform leaders these contracts are not signed yet. But students and teachers are back in school as we wait for the process to be formalized through signatures. Tell us some of the details, Brendan.
Yeah, so the Portland Association of Teachers, announced that they were beginning a strike on November 1st. And so there's been, I think, 11 days of instructional time lost. And some of that, maybe students would have been out for the holiday or that kind of thing, but for going on 3 weeks. But on Monday, they went back to school for the first time. There was a 2-hour delay. So for a lot of the month of November, students in Portland public schools were out of class as teachers were trying to negotiate for a contract. They have, as you mentioned, a tentative agreement, which basically, means that, the union and also the Board of Education need to vote on it. And that will be done Tuesday tonight on their time. So that's something that, we're waiting to see if that would happen. But I mean, this seems like it's been a while in the process, and it doesn't seem like there's, a lot of, I think these are often very intense negotiations with a lot of back and forth, and that seems to have been the case, these last, 3 or 4 weeks, essentially, different numbers being floated by the union and then the district saying, we can't do that. And then going back and forth, trying to find some middle ground. And that did happen. It sounds like that happened on Sunday, as you mentioned, with that tentative agreement being signed. And I've covered it a couple of different times for Chalkboard as, that got closer and closer. But that's been, sort of the big jumps have been cost of living adjustments. The teacher compensation has been one of the biggest ones. Another one, the biggest disagreements between the school district and the teachers union. There's also been, class size and workload, different articles there. And then also some student discipline concerns. So that those were all mentioned. I think those were sort of the sticking points that got ironed out on Sunday over the holiday weekend.
Well, the entire contract is going to cost taxpayers in the district about an additional $175 million over the next 3 years. That's pretty pricey for taxpayers. But why don't you briefly just go into the details, Brendan, of what the pay hikes are almost always a part of these negotiations with government unions. What are teachers getting in terms of raises?
Yeah, I believe it's a 13.75% raise over 3 years. So they get 6.25% in the 2023-2024 school year. They get 4.5% in the 2024-2025 school year and 3% in the 2025-2026 school year. And the district also said that about half of the teachers in the district would earn an extra 10.6% on their salary through yearly step increases. So that's just the way that, schools have different steps for teachers to...
Two sets of raises.
Right.
One tied to, cost of living, the other tied to educational advancements.
Absolutely. So that is another way that educators there can bring in more money. And that's, something that they were negotiating for. And so there are these different kind of sticking points. Another thing that it allows is class size committees. So that was something that the union was very concerned about. And they have basically, they've stipulated this is how many students will be assigned to each educator. And then if you go over that, then there is a requirement to grant a stipend to the teacher for every student over that class size. And there's also language in there that creates committees with educators and union representatives and school administrators to basically work together to try to find out how to mitigate class size overages. And so there's a lot of technical stuff in there about how do you keep from making blended classes where there are different grades. And so there's a lot of different complicated things here, and that, parents can join those. But there's also some current concerns from the district in this language that, you don't want parents to maybe be voting on something that would affect their kid or a kid that they know. And so, because that could kind of raise some concerns, right, in a community. And so the school district kind of pushed back on it. So a lot of this was, just talking about how do we make this actually happen? How do we do that? Another thing that the tentative agreement creates is a new article on special education. And so special education for teachers. So some of these are newer things. Another thing that it focuses on is restorative justice. And I've written about that. It's different practices to try to help student behavior and sort of create a sense of calm if you do it well in a school. So that's kind of moving away from some of these suspensions and moving toward restorative justice.
We could spend an entire episode on restorative justice, Brennan, and I think we actually have maybe a few months ago. So not time to do that. Get into that now, but let's make sure we talk about restorative justice, maybe do an update on that at some point in the near future. And last question for you, Brendan. Students lost several days of class time because of this. Are they going to make that class time up?
They are going to make that class time up. So they're cutting into their winter break. Students are going to have to work kind of right up until Christmas. I think the 22nd, if I remember that correctly. Yeah, through December 18th. Through the 22nd, they'll have to work. And then also on January 26th, some of these days that would have been, non-instructional days, they are now instructional days. And they're also going to have to work on do makeup days in the summer as well, June 12th through the 14th. So the district is trying to make up those days because they want we've lost a lot of time. Students across the nation have lost a lot of time because of COVID. And so there's a lot of these test score concerns. And so there are a lot of concerns around, making up this time.
Well, too bad for the students who will be going to school into the middle of June, but they need to be in school, in my personal opinion, for so many class days. Anyway, Brendan, thank you for your reporting on this topic, for informing our listeners here, but that's all the time we have. Listeners can keep up with this story and all stories related to K through 12 education at chalkboardnews.com. For Brendan Clary, I'm Dan McCaleb. Please subscribe. Thanks for listening.
Are you tired of news that puts politics over people? At the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation, we believe in putting people over politics by delivering nonpartisan news and audio content that serves you, the American taxpayer. With Franklin News Foundation, you can read fact-based, state-focused news for free at thecentersquare.com. You can listen to civil, balanced conversations between policy experts through our podcast network at americastalking.com. Or you can get in-depth news on K-12 education spending, curriculum, and school safety at chalkboardnews.com. It's all free through Franklin, where we put you, the American taxpayer, first in every story, episode, and conversation. And it's only possible through our supporters. Together, we can produce content that puts people over politics and brings Americans the news they deserve. Become a supporter today at franklinnews.org/donate. Once again, that's franklinnews.org/donate.